Hey, this is Travis. In the previous video, we talked about how the internet works and some internet protocols. Now in this video, we're going to talk about the evolution of the internet. The internet you can think of being broken into phases, Web 1, Web 2, kind of where we're currently at, and then Web 3, which is also currently emerging right now. Let's get into it. Okay, starting with Web 1, remember we have these fundamental internet protocols that I talked about in the previous video, and just a few content creators started publishing websites on top of this. This was characterized as the read-only version of the internet, or the era, because there were only a few content creators, and they were thinking that it was going to be this digital encyclopedia of information, that only a few creators would upload content and information on the web. And you got these really early on looking websites where you have some images, you have some text, and you have some hyperlinks on the page. But the average person wasn't writing blogs, wasn't using social media and posting pictures like we use a ton today. It was just a few people creating this content, and people would come in and access this. But this is why it's considered as read-only for the average user. Now, moving to Web 2, this is also referred to sometimes as the social web. And just based on that name, you could probably think that it's these big companies that we think of today: Google, Amazon, Facebook, Apple, Instagram, even though that's part of Facebook. These big centralized social media platforms that are dominant on the internet today. So if we go to my Instagram page, I can go to my profile. This is like my digital identity on Instagram. And Instagram has contains all of my data, this profile. It has all the pictures that I've uploaded, the comments, and the people who have liked it. It also has my network, the people who I follow and the people who are following me. So this is the user data that's contained within Instagram. The reason that Web 2 is considered read-write is because these social media platforms added interactivity into the internet. Like I said, in Web 1, not many average users were publishing content, but now in Web 2 we have things like WordPress where you can create your own website and blog. You've got Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, all these popular social media platforms where you can create a profile for yourself. That's your identity. And you can post, you can interact with other people's posts, you can share things. This is the interactivity that's characteristic of Web 2. So one of the pros of Web 2 is that now I have this online identity, and I can really, it's so easy for me. The user experience is so easy for me to make posts and for friends to connect with me and interact with those posts, right? So it's great UX and great interactivity, and this was the innovation from going from Web 1 to Web 2. However, the problem is that this profile and all the user data contained within it is owned by Instagram. If I breach Instagram's terms of services, I post something that they do not like, then they can ban me from the platform and they can delete my account forever. So I essentially lose all of my data. Or let's say that I'm tired of using Instagram and I want to use another social media platform. There's going to be a large switching cost for me to move social media platforms because there's not really going to be an easy way for me to transfer all of my data and my entire user network to another platform. So this lock-in effect is one downside that you see with Web 2. Web 2 is dominated by several really large companies, and these companies are in a large way, they are influencing how billions of people around the world experience the internet, right? So it's a big power, and they're not inherently bad, but there are some downsides to it, like the switching costs that I talked about before. And then also there are stories of how, like if we think about Apple, for example, Apple has the Apple App Store. And so third-party developers want to release their applications on the App Store so that 1 billion iOS users can access and download their application. But Apple, if they sense that an application is competitive with Apple's core business, then they can reject developers from releasing on their platform. So this is a closed ecosystem, Apple's App Store, just like Facebook is a closed ecosystem. They have APIs, but they can really control those APIs. So if a developer builds on Facebook's APIs, those policies could change eventually, and that entrepreneur is going to basically watch their product disappear when they build on top of these closed ecosystems. This is a risk that A16Z entrepreneur Chris Dixon talks about, that these closed ecosystems are a risk for entrepreneurs to build on. Going back to the Apple case, so Apple can reject an application from launching on their platform. And then also, even when they do accept applications, they charge a 30%, they get 30% of all the revenues developed from that application. So that's a pretty heavy tax for the application developers to experience. Okay, so that is Web 2. It is the internet that is being dominated by these large centralized companies. Think Apple, Facebook, Amazon, Google, et cetera, et cetera. Now, Web 3 really changes the game because it disintermediates these big centralized companies. We no longer need these big centralized companies to provide services. Now we have decentralized services. So a user can connect directly to a decentralized application, and we don't have any middleman that's controlling that data flow. And then also the blockchain, which runs Web3, blockchains are completely neutral. There's no terms and services. Anyone can deploy applications to them, and they're decentralized. So no single entity can shut it down, and no single entity owns that real estate or the data on the public blockchain. It's owned by the entire user base and all the nodes running that crypto network. So developers have an easier time, or it's more attractive for developers to develop on this neutral blockchain platform than it is on the closed ecosystems of Web 2, which the rules can change, but not on Web 3. Also, the thing that Web 3 has going for it, and which we're going to talk about in the next video, are Web 3 tokens. These are really powerful economic incentives that align all the stakeholders using a blockchain platform. So we're going to see how it aligns the interests of protocol developers, third-party application developers, end users, and the service providers or nodes on that crypto network. So we'll get into it in the next video. Thank you.